good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Okay, well, I thought I'd kick off the day, since oftentimes I do a funny commercial or something. I thought I'd kick off the day with some highlights of yesterday's or Wednesday's webinar. And I added down about 2 minutes, so it's about the same as a commercial. So let's go with that and see how it goes, right? Oops, yeah. So what to say to your CEO? Would you like 20% growth right now? You know, we're just doing a poll today while I speak. And it's the biggest poll we've had in about 2 years for a mailer. Good size, big, the kind of run most printers couldn't even handle. The other thing is, would you like to prove which part of your marketing is most effective? Our system is actually designed to spot anomalies. Would you like to spot hidden growth opportunities? That's what ignites growth. Growth is not ignited by tweaking, by turning little knobs. That doesn't happen. Explosive growth happens by a new business idea, a new concept, an untapped market that suddenly you can pivot toward. We spot opportunities. Do we beat what you're doing now? Sure. That's not where the money is. The money is in this third part, and that's what the CEOs are looking for. AI ROI, 90 days guaranteed. Direct mail ain't dead. Not only is direct mail not dead, direct mail is the most cutting edge marketing you can do. If you want to do machine learning, and you should, if your company is interested in tippy-toeing into machine learning, or your clients are interested, what could be better than a guaranteed ROI quantification of the machine learning? What could be better? We are going to guarantee that we get to ROI. We know what we're after. It's not data mining. There's a big hill. There must be something valuable. But it's data sluicing. We know we're looking for the gold. We have a machine that's found it consistently for 25 years, and we're going to find it for your clients, and we're going to help them grow. Mail can do this. It's baked into mail. Labeled data set is baked into mail. Mail is the most cutting edge technology for marketing in the world. Mail plus machine learning. But we've been doing the machine learning for 25 years, and they still haven't figured that out in digital. Mail, not only isn't it dead, it's the most cutting edge marketing today. When you marry it with machine learning, when you understand what you're working with, nobody does. Thanks for visiting. I'm going to sign off now. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. So that was kind of cool, I think. I don't know. It was kind of the 2-minute summary of that 1 hour webinar, which I do have that little bit available on the WDMA website. So if you want it or you want to share it, let me know and I'll get you the link. I probably will do a post of it. I think I'm going to upload it to YouTube because it is, you get a better image and stuff if you do that. Maybe I can figure out a way to post that on LinkedIn. Anyway, let's move on. This was a really much more interesting article than I expected. How experts are attempting to combat artificial intelligence's racist tendencies in AI. And of course, you hear about this stuff. You hear about how I think it was Twitter or Microsoft put up an AI bot, and it reacted and learned from the reactions of other Twitter users to it. And what quickly happened was it just kept blurting out like horrible epithets of all sorts of insulting things after about a few hours, because that's a lot of what Twitter's about. You know, it didn't know how to filter all that. And there's been other cases where facial recognition would not recognize other races because it was trained mainly on images of one particular race. And that could happen with TikTok very easily, that admitted the other day to 15 months of capturing facial images, right? I mean, it takes a lot of work to get a good labeled data set. That was kind of the theme of yesterday's or Wednesday's webinar. The theme was, it's hard to get a labeled data set. It's very hard. And it can include biases of just the data. Nobody's fault. Well, it's the fault of the people who put the data together, I suppose. So AI does pick up implicit biases. That's one of the things that we know. Now here's the fun part. The fun part is, after doing thousands of models, looking at probably hundreds of thousands of variables, because every model has a couple of hundred variables. Every iteration of the model has, zinging by, I don't know how many, all of those variables. Every time we build a new cell, somebody commented yesterday they would have liked to have seen more about real modeling. Well, we can do that. And I think I think there's actually a playlist up on YouTube about modeling, which I'm going to go digging out probably later today. So labeled data sets are rooted in the past. They take historical data. There is no such thing as real-time data. There's very, very recent data, and there's less recent data. Okay? But anyway, so these biases are played out often in the way AI reacts to things. Now, the good news about the way we look at the world is that we look at it and say, we know that this can happen. If you've mailed or if you've used acquisition, like I worked with a blood center in Kansas City years ago, and they wanted their data profile. They wanted to see what their donors looked like. And it turned out that their donors had a very strong bias toward sort of upscale suburban women, probably white. I don't think we looked at race, but it wouldn't surprise me because those things seem to be correlated. There's a lot of correlation. And so what they assumed is, since they had an overwhelmingly strong profile toward suburban women, let's say, they assumed that's where they should be targeting. And I said, well, it's not as simple as that. The question we should ask first is, where have you been targeting? And they said, well, we mainly advertise in real estate magazines, upscale real estate magazines, because that's where the board of directors lives and they like to see the ads. So their recruiting process for donors and for blood donors and monetary donors was biased by the board of directors. And so that data set, that profile, was actually skewed by the way they acquired customers. And that's almost always the case. You have assumptions in the way you built your business, right? You start to see patterns, or you think you do, and you start to go with those. It's very, very difficult. One of the things we learned in startups was that you had to go wider than you thought. You thought you knew who the market was. You thought you knew exactly who the market was. But you needed to look broader than that in the beginning. Because once you focus in on what the market seems to be, you're also excluding the opportunity for other markets to present themselves. Fascinating, isn't it? And so humans are pattern recognition systems and bias perpetuators. And if you let them program your AI, you will get your biases extrapolated with much power. And the real danger here is that these AI systems in general don't reveal much about how they're picking who they're picking. And so the biases are much less difficult to figure out at an individual level than they are at a global level. And you need some skill in it. So anyway, now the movement seems to be is whether AI that's trained on real human data can be taught not to reproduce racism. And many in the industry say it can, but not when it's made behind closed doors by engineers who are overwhelmingly male and disproportionately white. Now, the great part about this is we now have a scientific reason for firing white men. They're introducing bias into our AI. Right? And what's great about it is that everybody will love it. Even the white men might love it. You know, I have a friend who, posted his resume. He's not quite as old as I am, but he's, 50s, and just got no response whatsoever. And I read a case study on this where a guy systematically removed some of his characteristics on his resume. And when he got to, I think when he took out male, he took out his age, and he had a picture of himself as a white man. All of a sudden, he got hundreds of responses. But until that point, he got nothing. Now, if that isn't systematic racism, I mean, that is classic. A system has kept his resume from being viewed by anybody until he removes those filter alerting pieces of data. You see the power here? It's wonderful, okay? And now we have a good reason for firing the white men, not just favoring other races, which is racism. Good or bad, it's racism, right? That is classically what racism means. It's not about qualifications. So it takes a little bit of skill here. And according to and I don't know, a co-lead of Google's ethical AI team and co-founder of the group Black in AI, he said it wasn't so simple. You can't just reduce harms caused by machine learning to data set bias. He said there are little decisions that are made in the process, and that is really true, because I'll look at variables, hundreds of variables. Sometimes something will come to the top like percentage of disabled veterans over 85 years old. That's in the census data. You can find that out by zip code. And you think, well, what does that have to do with the product I'm selling? And it could have something to do with it. Maybe you're selling Medicare supplements or something. Or it could be a correlation to the number of seniors in a neighborhood or in a population group. So it could matter, but I'd probably be biased against it because it's a percentage of a small population. Over 85, disabled veterans, both of those are very, very small. So a high chance of just one or two people influencing that percentage quite dramatically. Okay? So I throw that away. Often little decisions in that process add up to missed experiences and opportunities for underrepresented users. So we're continually setting up, after the model is done, we're continually setting up ways to test other populations. We continually push the boundaries out into other areas and sample that just to make sure that our biases, that are validated, that are proven, okay, that are consistent across the data sets. We have 5 data steps to try to make this process legitimate, unbiased, but it's very difficult. Here's the kicker. Even the best intentioned AI developers who have not personally been impacted by these inequities may not notice them in the systems they're designing. This is why you don't want to just go with a pure AI first step, because you don't know the biases. They don't know the biases. They may not even have enough experience to recognize that there might be biases. And the AI can dramatically shrink your company and focus on a market that you've been pounding for years, which is not your real opportunity. That's the great part about the methodology we've developed, is the ability to spot other opportunities that we have not focused on, that the AI pilot has maybe missed, or that the founder of the company has maybe missed. This is the greatest line in the whole thing. Potentially life-altering technology development is left up to individuals who have not been properly trained to consider ethics. And you say, well, John, yeah, this makes sense to you. You've got a master's in statistics. No, I have a master's in philosophy. I can tell you right now what Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics is at its core, what it's about. I ran it by the chairman of the department who taught Aristotle for decades. He said, that's about as good a summary as I've ever heard. Have you considered the categorical imperative of Immanuel Kant? Have you considered utilitarianism in your modeling? No. Your stats guys never took an ethics class in all their training, I would guess. Maybe they will now, but that will have biases in it. This stuff is really interesting and really complicated. You want a proven system where you don't have to worry that they pulled the right names, right? You don't have to worry that they scored recency in the opposite way that you have been. That happened by one of the biggest software companies in the merchant class more than a few years ago. We stepped in to fix it. The merchant said, we thought we were mailing our most recent buyers. It turns out we were mailing our oldest buyers. It almost put them out of business. This stuff, these mistakes happen. If you've never heard of these mistakes, or your AI PhD has never felt the pain in their stomach of putting millions of pieces in the mail and hoping what you did worked, that kind of pain gives you an appreciation of the ethics involved. Heaven help you. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Have a great day.